Well, no,
Yep.
I, if you could stop, that would be good.
Okay.
When you start. Kate is in Redmond, Oregon, and she's been a mosaic artist for 24 years and is known nationally and internationally for her work. She studied in Italy classical techniques, and she's won numerous awards and has shown her mosaics in the US, Italy, and Turkey. So I'll turn it over to you, Kate.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. For you, it's evening, and for me, it's late afternoon. So yeah, my name's Kate, and I'll kind of give you a little bit about my background a little bit, and then just kind of dive into the project. But it kind of helps lead up to it a little bit in case you're not really familiar with my work. So as Amy said, I am, oops, there we go. I've been doing mosaics for 24 years. I started out using stained glass, and then like she said, I went to Italy and I studied in both Ravenna and Venice, and that was everything changed after that. Learning materials and techniques. I do have a background in graphic design, as well as I was pretty avid photographer. So when I went to Italy, I started changing my course of my work using the traditional materials of smalty and stone, and combining what I learned there with my photography skills or the composition. So that was really a game changer for me in my career as a mosaic artist. And so these are just some of my works. Everything is my original photography. And yes, I did get to the top of Golden Gate Bridge when I lived in San Francisco. And so yeah, this is some of my work. Maybe you're familiar with it, maybe you're not, some of it's not been shown, but just recently I started, like in the last 4 years, maybe, started doing some abstract work, just sort of getting an itch to kind of grow and expand what I was doing. My other work was very tedious, and, as representational work, it's very tedious and time consuming. So moving into abstract was really liberating for me, playing with different color and just, there's so much freedom involved with it. And learning, building my own substrates to create some undulation, and just having a lot of fun. And the reason I kind of bring this up or show this is just that for me, it was a really good evolution, because I would have never come to do this project had I not sort of expanded what I had already done and explored. So that was my own lesson, is like, just keep growing and learning new things, trying new techniques, because it just leads you forward. And I would have never come up with this project. It wouldn't have been feasible to me had I just been doing my old representational work. So that just kind of leads me up to this project, which is piecing us together. And this thing is so multi-layered on many levels. It's just kind of packed with so much meaning. Obviously, to me, it's my own, kind of story. But every mosaic in there, each person has a story who is involved in this. And then all together, it is our story, and I'm not just talking about the people in it, but, sort of everyone and humanity is in this. This is what it represents. And so there's, I think, not only is it artistically, I think, really a beautiful piece, if I might say so myself, but it does have cultural and historic value based on when I did this project, in the context of, it was during the pandemic. It was after Delta, but before Omicron or something like that. And I just saw this window to come and do this project. And so it was, that was sort of important, because the time in which I did it, it was, people were locked down, we're coming out of restrictions, kind of catching everybody fresh from this whole pandemic. And, going through it, like there was a period of time for like a month that there was nothing going on. It felt pretty good. And then Omicron struck, and I didn't know if the project would be shut down, but Obviously there was concerns about, are you vaccinated, or, wearing masks, or some people didn't want to, were concerned about COVID. So it was, challenging. I respected everybody's decision to participate or not, or if we wanted to meet outside or wear masks. So that was sort of, it's a really good social commentary piece. It is a pandemic piece for sure. And it embraces so many different themes, the connection that we have with each other, that, we all felt that during the lockdown and stuff, being isolated from our family and friends, the importance of our relationships with each other, unity, at a time when our country is, there's a lot of divisiveness right now and the last several years. So it's all about unity and inclusion. There's a lot of diversity in this piece on several levels. And then obviously the collaboration of all these people coming together to make this thing happen. So the themes are really embraced in this whole piece. Just kind of a gist of what I did. I took about 8 months to do visits with family and friends, 5.5, which were on the road, and then the other like 2.5 here back in Oregon, locally. And I drove over 25,000 miles, visited 38 states, and a total of 552 people. It's kind of me just plotting out my route. I used Facebook heavily to really figure out where people lived and a way of getting in touch with them. So Facebook actually had a really good and heavy part in this project. So I packed up my Subaru. I had all my supplies and things I would need for the road and hit the road. So I'll just kind of fly through some pictures, and did this amazing road trip across the country. And you can see my route outlined in black. Nothing was linear, with a lot of up and down, back and forth, kind of had to repeat some areas. But that was my route. And it took me everywhere. I went all the way up to Maine, down to Miami, to the south, up the West Coast, just to some amazing places where family and friends all lived. I got to go see, I'd never been to the East Coast, so that was awesome. I never saw DC or anything on the East Coast with the exception of New York City, but I got to see Rachel Sager's The Ruins Project. It was just awesome seeing our country. So it was a really special trip. And so basically everybody just created a small mosaic little piece or segment that I was just then going to incorporate into the larger mosaic. And so everybody, I gave them a little cut piece of mesh, and here's the sort of setup I used. I had, portable hammer and hardy and nippers. I used Wellbond for this purpose for sheer convenience of working with people with it. And I used the classic stone and Smalty. And, people just were able to create whatever they wanted. And there was no rules. I wanted this to be really fun for everybody. And this had to be fun, right? And that people could spend as long or on it as they wanted, or as little time as they wanted on it. So, people are intimidated by art. And I just wanted it to be very inviting and stress-free and fun. And kids had like an awesome time. They wanted to build up. They were like, and my rule is like, if it sticks, it stays, I'm like, great. And these are so cool. And they add a lot of dimension to the final piece. And even some adults, some grownups also wanted to go vertical. But I just thought it was really clever when a little kid, the first kid who asked me, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. This is going to be really interesting what they come up with. So the kids had a great time, they love, gluing stuff down. And I did have a color scheme for this whole project. I basically lived in 4 different places. I'm from Wisconsin, so that was green. I did live in Lake Tahoe for 4 years, which is blue. I lived in San Francisco for 18 years. So kind of rusty, rosy reds in that. And then Bend area, I just live north of Bend, Oregon, which is high desert. So that was my color scheme for this project. And it determined like where I knew the person from, then that's the color they would use. Because I wanted to eliminate that choice. I didn't want a bunch of rainbows and all this mix match stuff. So if we met in San Francisco, that was your color, was the reds or the rosy reds and stuff. So that's kind of how I just determined the color scheme for this project. So here you can see some examples of the mosaics from those color schemes. And I was just blown away by what people came up with. Just such creativity, and some of them were sort of similar, but most of them were so different, which I loved. And then these guys here are made by a fellow mosaic artist. And with this group of people, I didn't, I don't know them from a certain place. Maybe we know each other from online or Facebook, or we met at a conference or exhibition. So I let my artist friends use whatever materials they wanted to use, or maybe they're known for a certain material that they use in their work. So I let them kind of have the freedom to incorporate that into their mosaic. And that added a really nice sort of flair to the final piece. So who are all these people? This is my family, my mom and my 3 brothers. So it's just so special, like all my relatives. I have a lot of cousins. I mean, I came from a huge Irish Catholic family, so tons of cousins, aunts and uncles, but it's so special to have all of their hands and work in this piece. And this goes all the way back to grade school and high school friends, college. I mean, people from all walks of my life are in this project. So it's really special to me, obviously. And then we have I had 85 mosaic artists in this. So you might recognize some faces here as we go through. But it was so cool to visit them, to see their studios and their workspace, maybe see what they're working on. And that was a really special part of this project, was seeing all my mosaic artist friends. Again, there's about 85 of them that I end up seeing in person, which was really fun. And let's see, nope, even more. That was a really cool. I had a ton of great stories and memories from this trip, but one special story kind of just sort of, I don't know, grasps the whole idea of the project with this whole connection, was this woman named Sable. I knew her from a place that I worked, and I helped her out during COVID as well. And she was 94, she was in frail health. And before I left, I didn't know how long I'd be gone. So, but I really wanted her to be a part of the project. And so I had her do the honors of being the first person to participate in this. So she did the honors, I helped her out. And, just was so touching that, this is her creation, this is what she came up with for this project. And I'm really thankful that I thought of that, because she died about 2 weeks before I got home from the big on the road trip. So it's just really special that she's in this project. And, those connections we make with people. And she was the first one to sign this book, which I had. It's another really meaningful part of the project. My really good friend Osa does leather work, and I had her made this book for me that everybody kind of signed. They had printed their name, the date that they did the project, what, city and state, how we know each other, and then their signature. So this is such a valuable book to me. It's just so cool to see everybody's handwriting, and a great way to document this project. So that was a really cool part. And I noticed like kids didn't have a signature. That was sort of funny to encounter that. Let's see. But along the way, it was just this I felt like a little mosaic ambassador, because here I am introducing people to the classic materials of smalty and stone. I showed them how to use the tools, the hammer and hardy and nippers, just explaining things to them about mosaic, and giving them an insight into what we do, and so hopefully, it'd be really cool if at least one person or so decided to maybe pursue it a little bit further. I mean, everybody really enjoyed it and had a really fun time. Kids had a great time, and it was really cool to see families sit down at the table together and work on something, no devices, no, they were engaging with each other and helping each other out on this. And that was really cool to see, to bring people together. And this is my another nice little story. This is a good friend of mine's son. He's autistic, as well as has some Down syndrome, and so just including people who with physical challenges or disabilities in this as well. This man Gary, he was deaf, and he didn't want to do the project at first. He was watching his wife and some other people, and we got him to do it. But at the end of it, his wife was just so appreciative that we got him, that he's involved in this. She goes, he doesn't get included or invited to do this kind of stuff. And so to include a lot of people who might not normally be included in an art project. Another really cool thing about it was connecting different generations of people. These are longtime friends of my parents, and then, it's their daughter and then their granddaughter, and they all live in different cities, but I visited all of them. And so now they're all, in the project together, which is really special for them. So connecting people that way as well was really neat to see. This is 4 generations of people, even a little guy there. And so I was just really, on the whole project, was really just overwhelmed by the generosity of my family and friends. They housed me for several nights. They fed me, we had dinners and lunches and coffee, and they showed me around their towns and would send me off with little care packages or gifts. And I mean, I couldn't have done this project without the help of my friends and family. I camped maybe 12 nights, and I think I only got 5 hotel rooms out of 156 nights on the road, which was just incredible. So that was just such a feel-good part of this project. Also, talk about generosity. My suppliers here that are listed, when I thought of this project, which happened pretty fast. I mean, I thought of it in May and I left in July. So it was about 6 weeks of getting this together. And I reached out and explained the whole project, and they all donated all the materials that I used and the tools on the, which was just incredible. That was a huge component of this. I mean, it really helped out. And I did get funding from the Ford Family Foundation and the Oregon Arts Commission to go speak last year at the SAMA conference. I ended up being the keynote speaker for that. And that was great because it helped me finish the project and get me there and help promote this whole project. When I got home, my dog was super excited to see me. It might have been the hardest part of this whole trip, was being away from my dog. But so now I had all of this material, and I had to lay it out and just see what I was working with. I've got all these little mosaics, 552 little mosaics. And so I took a lot of time with each one. I really got to look at it and study it. I recorded on the back. I had with tape, I had the person's name and the date that they did it. So I recorded everything down. I photographed each one. And I mean, so I really took a lot of time to document this project. And it was just incredible, feeling to pick one up. This, for example, this is my mom's. And she made this for me for this project. And these people took the time to do this. And and it's just so touching to see everybody's contribution to this and their own, creation, what they came up to. So they, really is just little gifts, and I really cherish each one of them. And yeah, it's just really special to see that. One of the big challenges was laying this thing out. I had a couple design ideas, and the overall thing was I wanted it to be a fabric of some sort of fabric or tapestry, and woven together by the people that have touched and shaped my life. And so one of my ideas was sort of almost based off of a hanging tapestry. So it was going to be vertical pieces. And I was kind of weaving them together. And it started out really cool, but technically, the actual technical part of it was not going to work, way too complicated. And then I was going back to my themes of like unity and diversity and all that stuff. And I wanted to go back to blending the colors more. Here it's, they're getting separated. And I'm like, no, this is not showing unity as well. So I went back to my original idea was just this long mosaic that was laid out horizontally. This is just a layout of it. And that way I could blend the colors more and also really highlight each individual mosaic to showcase all the different individuals in diversity in this project. Even though there were similar looking ones, I made sure to separate them so that they really stood out on their own. And here you can see I built sort of a temporary 14-foot table in my studio with everything laid out. And I tried hard to really integrate all of them well and blend the colors. So I built this in 3 panels. Here's 2 of them, but the front and back. It was Wheatie board, and then I have it set into an aluminum frame, and with back support. It can be hung with wire, but I have a French cleat system, and I just had to make sure that these things were super solid because there's 3 of these panels, so it turns out to be 12 feet long by about 2.5 feet tall. And I built an undulating substrates for them out of about 5 layers of a mesh concrete or thin set layers. And then I set that on top of the Wheatie board that had thin set. So I laid it into thin set and then I bolted it down as well. So I just wanted this thing to be super sturdy because I have plans for it to travel. And here's sort of my working station. It was pretty crammed and obviously I didn't have a huge amount of space to work in, but I'd sort of pick up a piece from the table and then place it into the thin set on the panel I was working on. And as I did that, I would take off the tape on the back of it and put it down from where I took it from. So now I've got this whole map of names so that each person can see where their mosaic is in the overall piece. And that's important for me. I want to share that with them. And I think they'd like to know where their piece is because you're not going to really be able to recognize it. So again, you can kind of just see some progress here. One neat thing in this mosaic is my Uncle Tom was a really good ceramicist, and he had a piece that had broken in shipping. And so I took the the broken pieces and created tessera out of it and made 7 little mosaics out of this sort of lime green color. And that represents him and my dad and their siblings who they've all passed away. And so I really wanted them to be somehow in this piece. And to commemorate them. And I think it's really neat that his art is now in my art. And so it's another kind of really meaningful, special part of it. I used gold smalty between all of the sort of spaces in the large mosaic. It's kind of a copperish color. And this is really neat because I'm sort of the thread that ties us all together in this fabric. So you can kind of see some of this gold in there. And it really ties the whole piece together really well. And so that's a neat element of it. So that's where my hand comes in. And then I also had to sort of finish off people's mosaics if there's a little gap between a few of them. So it was really interesting to work off of someone else's little mosaic to see what their style was like. And actually I learned a lot of stuff too. It was really neat. It was sort of fun to continue on their thought process. The local news took this story. They followed it from the beginning before I even left. I shared my idea with them, and they're all excited. So they did 3 different stories locally on, the beginning, and then when I got back from the road trip part of it, and then they wanted to be there for the final putting in of the mosaic, the very last piece. So that was pretty cool that they took interest and helped kind of promote this whole project. And here you can just see some of the different colors and textures. It's just such a vibrant, alive piece. It's just it's really beautiful. And just the way it flows and undulates. Again, it really highlighting the diversity of all the individuals in this project. So here it is. I had sort of a temporary space to hang it in quickly. I was trying to find a blank wall just to mainly just to see how it looked hanging on the wall together, because I had only seen it laying flat down on my studio table. And so I wanted to get it up, see if the French cleat hanging system worked and what it looked like. So here's a little perspective of me with it. Again, it's 12 feet long by about 2.5 feet high. And each panel weighs about 51 pounds. So divided it up, it holds well on the wall. And here's another view of it. So you can really see the cool undulation in it and colors. And what's kind of neat, it almost represents our country, this sort of, not only the diversity of the population of our country, but also of the different areas. We got rivers and cityscapes and desert and grasslands, mountains. So I like kind of that double diversity sort of meaning behind this whole piece. I had 2 plaques made. One, they're both kind of wood, laser engraved wood plaques, and one lists every single person that participated and their state. And the other one is the journey that I took around the United States. And then I use the same gold that I use in the piece in the plaques. And I really wanted that consistency there. So that's a nice touch. And this gold is pretty cool because I was out of the gold after the project, but when I got these plaques, I reached out to Deb Aldo, and she happened to have the gold that I was using, because we both had purchased it from Lynn Moore years and years ago. And I had saved this gold for this project, or, for something bigger, and ended up using it on the project. So thankful that Deb had some, and it's really neat that now Lynn is now in this project as well. So kind of like why did I do this project? How did it come about? And I mean, obviously COVID, because, after being shut down, we all had a lot of time to reflect and go inward. And during that time, I'd also turned 50. So I was thinking about my life, the direction of my art, where do I want it to go? Thinking of, doing something bigger than me. Just a lot of things were on my mind. I wanted to travel, all this stuff, but I pretty much missed everybody, and wanted to reach out and say hello. And I'm like, what a better way than to, do an art project, use that as the excuse to go say hi to people. And, just this whole thing about the importance of our relationships and our humanness, hugging and smiling and interacting with each other. So that was huge. And I felt like COVID, I kind of made this up, this little permission slip. I mean, it was awful that it happened. And for a lot of people, it was obviously horrible health-wise, physically, mentally, financially. It disrupted the entire world. And, thankfully for me personally, I did get COVID, but not bad. And so for me, because it kind of shook everything up, you could have the most secure job in the world or the best job or whatever. And because it just really shook up the entire world, suddenly I felt better. Because normally on the fast-paced track of the world, I always kind of felt like I was barely hanging on as an artist and, trying to make my little niche. But something that just gave me like this everybody's in this kind of scary position, and there's so many unknowns. And so it kind of just, I felt like, gave me, gosh, anything goes. And so for me, I took that permission slip and used it. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, but she has this she references this kind of idea that if an idea lands in you, that you have to act on it and do something with the idea, or it leaves you. And I was thinking, gosh, this idea came to me. If I don't do it, someone else is going to do it. And so I really acted on it. And I don't know, it's a great book, but that really stuck with me. So this project has a lot of momentum right now. I am in collaboration with the New Mexico Ballet. They are doing a performance piece based on this whole project, which is super exciting. And that's coming up in May in Albuquerque. So that's going to be awesome. I like the collaboration on this level too, with another art form. It's also going to SAMA in Buffalo. I'm not sure if anyone's going to be going to that, but the piece will be there. And the conference is in the fall, in September, October. But the piece will be showing there. And it will be also going to the Chicago Mosaic School as well, probably right after SAMA. And also to La Crosse, Wisconsin, which is where I'm from, and that might be in the late summer. But I'm really trying to get it to go to museums. Again, I think it's an important piece of art, and like I said, it holds cultural and historic significance. So I'm shooting big. I want it to go to some museums, definitely in New England area. So if anyone has any contacts with museums there, but I'd like to get it down to Florida, as well as the West Coast, like San Diego, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle area as well. And that would be my main goal, is for a museum to actually acquire the piece, or to be acquired by some sort of large public space, so that, a lot of people can enjoy it. And if that doesn't happen, I'm obviously happy to house it. It's very personal to me. And so I would keep it, but I'm shooting big. I do have goals for a documentary. Like I said, this is highly documented. I did a lot of filming on the road, the process and making of it. But the story's not really over yet. With this ballet coming up, if museums, I want to engage with people who are viewing it and do some interviews. So that's kind of down the pipeline. As well as a book. So those kind of things are still kind of in the works, but down the road. And I kind of have I'd really like this to be a global project called Piecing Us Together, spelt differently. And that is something that would be in a few years, but let this one kind of get its legs and move. But I think it'd be amazing, or just really incredible, to do this on a global scale. Our Mosaic community is all over the world, and I have friends that live abroad. So it'd be a really cool project to continue on a bigger level. I think that's kind of it. Yeah. So, I mean, you can follow this, where it goes, what happens next with it, through social media and my website, which I keep up to date. And other than that, I think that's kind of the whole project. I would love to answer questions or hear any comments or whatever. So if there are any, I can turn it over to somebody who has those.
This is Karen. So questions did not come into the chat while you were speaking. Just one comment saying that the secretary position is also going to be open.
Got it.
But I have a question. How did you kind of get your inspiration for the dimensionality? Like, you've made it sort of wavy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit hard to see in the picture, but
Yeah. So I wanted it to be sort of this like fabric looking type piece, like so we're all woven together. And so when I cut the little mesh strips, I cut them in all sorts of different sort of thicknesses, like some thin, some thick, some wavy, some straight, and just to add to the flow of the mosaic. And then of course I had the undulation of the actual substrates as well, so that really helped create some of that as well. But I had this idea, I just wanted it to be really organic and more exciting than just sort of geometric sort of shapes.
It
So
looks almost like a magic carpet,
yeah, that's a good uh, description of it for sure. Yeah, and I liked also, it did kind of turn out like the landscape of the country with all the different, scenery, with the deserts and mountains and rivers and lakes. I liked how that kind of played out too in it, in the undulation of it. Yeah, just lots of flow and connectivity.
And there's a message now in the chat from Annabella that says, so fun to see the project together. Thanks, Kate, for showing up and allowing me to be a tiny part of it.
Ah, great. Thank you for sharing in it. So yeah, I'm excited that it's finished, for everybody who's involved in it. And I felt bad that at SAMA last year, I mean, it wasn't done yet, but they also didn't have an exhibition, so I didn't push it to be done. But it's nice that it's finally together and out there, and hopefully it lands in front of the people who participated, because that's really my main intention. I want to get it in front of people who had a part of it, so that you can see what we did. This is definitely a we project, and I hope everybody who participates gets to see it in person at some point. So thank you.
It's just beautiful. That's all I can say. Just gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not sure who was saying that.
Terry Bromfield. I'm
Okay.
I'm in awe of it all. I'm in awe of it.
Yeah, thank you. It was a huge undertaking. I didn't know
Yeah.
what I was getting into. And I think that was the fun part of it. Like, I didn't have an answer for this. I just did it, and it hasn't been done before. So it's like, I wasn't trying to compare it to something else or whatever. And I just figured stuff out on the road. And then when I got back, I had to figure out more stuff. But that was, I mean, there was a lot of challenges, sure, but it turned out, I think, pretty good, and like pretty much like I envisioned. So, I mean, it could have been really big. I was not trying to do a wall. I mean, it could have been a lot more people, and it could have been a lot
Did you
smaller.
did you forget anyone that was hurt, that they were, I mean,
there was one person that it was hard on the road. I mean, people were communicating via email, phone, Instagram, Messenger. I mean, I had information all over that I was trying to keep track of on the road. And there was one person that two people I think I missed. I'm like, I left Texas. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to, because she had reached out during my time on the road. And I kind of had it all plotted out. I mean, I had reached out to a lot of people before I left, and I kind of did a call out on Facebook, like, hey, if anyone wants to participate in this, through my friend circles, and so it was a two-way street. And some people reached out to me and said, hey, I really want to be a part of this. Some people turned me on to other artists who wanted to do it. So it was sort of a fluid sort of way of getting people to do this project. But I also felt awful because I didn't want it to be like I was excluding anyone. There were a lot of mosaic artists that could have been in this project, and I just didn't know everybody, or on the, we're not always on each other's radar. So I was feeling bad that I didn't want people to feel excluded or anything. If that was my one thing that I was like, oh God, I hope, I was trying to, reach out to a lot of people. So yeah. I might have to do another one.
There's one more comment in the chat from another Karen just saying it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really hope, is anyone going to the SAMRA conference in Buffalo? I don't know if anyone's going there, but the piece will be there this fall for the exhibition. And then again, if any one of you has museum contacts in the New England area, let me know, because I would love it to land somewhere in New England so that you can see it in person. Because it really, as we all know, mosaics look so much better in person. But it's so much fun to look at. You get up, you know, from far away, it has the visual effect, but when you get up close, there's all these like little mosaics and little treasures in there that are, you can look at it all day and just find new things in there. It's pretty fun.
So we've had a question come in from Angel,
Uh-huh.
saying, were there any previous projects from other artists that gave you ideas for this?
I think I've always been inspired, like at SAMA conferences and such, when people gave presentations about some of their big projects they were doing. I always just sat there in awe of like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. Like, I just like I love what Rachel Sager's doing with her ruins project. And I remember hearing that lecture kind of in particular in a way. I'm like, God, that is so meaningful to her. Like, it's so personal because it's her, you know, where she's from, and it's part of her family's history, the whole mining thing. And that like resonated with me quite a bit. I'm like, gosh, I wish I had something that was meaningful, or like, what can I do? You know, or and at that point, I wasn't even doing abstract work. I was just doing work off my photography, which was great. But, you know, and I saw people doing those bigger projects, it inspired me to, you know, gosh, what could I do on a bigger scale? And it took me years, obviously, till 2021 to come up with my own idea. So yeah, I think, you know, inspirations on that level for sure. But I'm not a you know, these community projects, I would be overwhelmed with 550 people coming to me to do a project. This was something I kind of felt I could do on it because it was very intimate and personal. Like, I'm sitting at people's kitchen tables one-on-one, and that's how I do better rather than in really large groups. So this was definitely kind of my style of a community project.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see, any more questions out there, or can't see anybody?
Yeah, I don't see any. All right, so I think we want to give some real appreciation and thanks to Kate